Oil is one of the main reasons for the US presence in the Middle East. It is unlikely that America will abandon the region until the fossil fuels run out. The US might reduce the number of its troops in the Middle East, or even shut down some of its military bases, but it will keep the soft power and will remain the crucial actor in this part of the world for the foreseeable future. I'm your host Kasim, and thanks for joining me for another KJ vid. In this video we will discuss if America will really leave the Middle East, but just before we begin, we would like to introduce our sponsorship for this video by Blinkist. The political landscape is so vast that it can be hard to find the time to sit down and learn more. You might think you don't have the time to read a book to immerse yourself in current political trends, and this is where today's sponsor Blinkist can help. With 8 million users and a huge library of books at your fingertips, Blinkist is the only app that provides you with the best insights on thousands of non-fiction books condensed into just 15 minutes to read or listen. You don't even have to read the book and still walk away with the need-to-know information you were after. I like Blinkist because in less than 15 minutes it can bring me up to speed on books I want to read but just haven't had the time to do so. For example, I recently used Blinkist to read Masha Gressen's The Man Without a Face and the Unlikely Rise of Vladimir Putin, and Shandon K. O'Neill's Two Nations Indivisible. The first 100 people to go to our link in the description below will get unlimited access for 1 week to try it out. The 7-day trial is completely free and you can cancel anytime. You'll also get a 25% discount if you want the full membership. The link is in the description, please check it out. According to Andrew Basovich's book, America's War for the Greater Middle East, from the end of World War II to 1980, virtually no American soldiers were killed in action while serving in the Greater Middle East. American policy during the Cold War tried to prevent Soviet Union influence by supporting anti-communist regimes and backing Israel against Soviet-sponsored Arab countries. The US also came to replace the United Kingdom as the main security patron of the Persian Gulf states in the 1960s and 1970s, working to ensure a stable flow of Gulf oil. On August 8, 1944, the Anglo-American Petroleum Agreement was signed, dividing Middle Eastern oil between the US and the UK. President Franklin Roosevelt reportedly told the British ambassador in Washington, "Persian oil is yours. We share the oil of Iraq and Kuwait, and as for Saudi Arabian oil, it is ours." Their deal seems to be valid to this day. Anglo-American interests in the region have not disappeared. Middle Eastern nations lacked the technology and knowledge to extract oil, which led to Western companies securing crude exploration and extraction rights for a relative pittance. The US and the UK involvement in the Middle East has always been principally about the strategic advantage gained from controlling the Persian Gulf oil, rather than Western needs for hydrocarbons. The United States alone imported about 2 million barrels a day of Persian Gulf oil in 1980. Although today, the picture has changed dramatically after a decade-long boom in domestic US oil production. At present, the United States is again becoming a net energy exporter and a swing producer in the global oil market. America currently imports fewer than 1 million barrels of oil a day from the region. It is worth mentioning that about 3 of every 4 barrels of oil that leave the Strait of Hormuz are headed to Asian countries such as China, India, Japan and South Korea. Great Britain, for instance, used to import considerable quantities of Saudi oil, but currently it gets most of what it needs from the North Sea and hasn't imported much from the Gulf since the 1980s. Saudi oil currently represents around 3% of the UK imports. Still, in spite of various alternatives for fossil fuels, oil is expected to remain the world's single largest source of energy for the foreseeable future. The US and Great Britain might reduce crude import from Arab countries, but they will likely keep the control of the Middle Eastern oil itself, as this lucrative business brings enormous profits to Western megacorporations such as British Petroleum, Royal Dutch Shell, Chevron and many others. The world is dominated by the need to control oil, which is often the cause of wars. In spite of the so-called US withdrawal from the Middle East, the US Defense Department recently announced a deployment of 1,800 more American troops to Saudi Arabia. According to the US Central Command, presently there are between 60,000 and 70,000 US troops in the Middle East. The United States have military bases in Bahrain, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates and Turkey. The American troops might have withdrawn from relatively insignificant locations in northern Syria, but it remains to be seen if they will keep their bases in oil-rich Syria's Deir ez-Zor province. Also, it is still not clear if Washington will withdraw its troops from Al Tanf military base located along the Iraq and Jordan Syrian border. Even if American forces eventually leave the region, it doesn't mean that they can never return. There are a number of ways the United States could remain engaged in the Middle East even without permanent basing. Whether through military-to-military contracts, ongoing provision of technological support to states it has sold weaponry to, and cooperation with countries like Israel. According to many US officials, Washington will remain engaged in the Middle East, primarily in its very close relationship with Tel Aviv. Talking about the US withdrawal from Syria, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu recently said that the US President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Michael Pompeo made it clear that they had other ways to exert influence in the region. Even though the United States is still the major player, there are numerous actors seeking greater roles in the Middle East. Many American officials fear that giving China a nearly free hand around the Persian Gulf would mean potentially ceding a vital area of US interests to a rival and strategic competitor. On the other hand, according to Lyle Goldstein, an expert on China at the US Naval War College, the Chinese view the Middle East as the graveyard of the superpowers, and they are not eager to get involved in the turbulent region. Apart from the Middle East, President Donald Trump appears to be eyeing the exits in Afghanistan as well. Presently, the US disengagement from this country seems unlikely. Although Afghanistan does not nearly have as much oil as the Middle Eastern countries, it has over 1,400 mineral fields containing coal, copper, gold, natural gas and zinc among many other minerals. It is also a very significant source of profit with opium. When the US and British forces invaded Afghanistan in October 2001, poppies were grown on around 74,000 hectares, roughly around 285 square miles. The new figures showed production has increased more than fourfold in 15 years. Now opium was being grown on 328,000 hectares, almost 1,266 square miles. Opium production has been on the rise since the US military has allowed poppy cultivation to continue in order to appease farmers and government officials involved with the drug trade who might otherwise turn against the US puppet government in Kabul. Fueling both sides, the opium and heroin industry is both a product of the war and an essential source for continued conflict. The Persian Gulf, as well as the whole Greater Middle East, will remain an essential source of global supply and an important arbitrator of energy pricing in the foreseeable future. Oil is indispensable to sustaining the US war machine, and cheap oil is indispensable to the American culture of consumption. Therefore, any form of the US disengagement from the Middle East looks very unlikely. Instead, in the upcoming years and decades, the United States and its allies might attempt to destabilize Iran, which is the only energetically self-sufficient country in the region. They will also aim to do a regime change in oil-rich Venezuela, not only because of the Western's strong desire to spread democracy all over the world, but primarily because of energy resources. That's all for today guys, thanks for watching another KJ vid. We hope you enjoyed this video and would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please don't forget to visit our website kjvids.co.uk and subscribe to one of our plans which will give you unlimited access to our content and the full transcripts of these reports. You can also join our YouTube membership program to receive other perks. Finally, we'd like to thank you our sponsor for this video, Blinkist. Please check it out in the link in the description. Thanks for watching again and see you next time.